Hazbin Hotel, a show that was 4 years in the making, finally came out. Both fans and critics were happy, mostly. If you've seen Twitter, you know what I mean by that. Although, were they ever happy? Now, I considered myself a fan of the pilot when I watched it. No, I wasn't a crazy one who thought the show was a gold standard for indie animation, or in the fandom at all. I was more of someone who said, wow, that's impressive, and moved on with my day. I liked the idea, enjoyed the pilot, but I kinda blocked it out of my brain. This was like most of the population after 2 years of radio silence with Hazbin Hotel updates. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, Hazbin was being produced by A24 and was going to be on Prime Video? That was news to everyone. Anywho, now that the show has finally come out and my YouTube recommended has been flooded with videos, it was all overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie, but this aggressive hype intrigued me. So I decided to watch this show because I wanted to see if the criticism/blatant hate for this cartoon was valid. And I have thoughts. So I decided to record myself giving a summary of each episode with my personal opinions and thoughts. By the way, some of these are fairly negative, so... I rewatched the show for this video, and I wrote down notes about every episode. So, first we're actually gonna start with the pilot, which I just watched. It's good. It starts off with us listening to Charlie's song, where it's like, I'm sad that the exterminations happened. And we're immediately introduced to the exterminations, even though, like, we don't know what it is yet. So it's already, like, giving us a bit of a mystery-esque sort of thing, like, oh, what is this? It's a hook. Kind of. Then we meet Angel Dust, who I think is trying to be like, he's supposed to kind of be a bit of a side character, but he has so much screen time to where it's like he's almost a main character. Like, he is a part of the main group, but it feels kind of like he has more screen time than like Vaggie, which is weird, but I think it's just like Mimzy Pop loves his character, so she likes to talk about him, which is fine. A passion project's a passion project. Then we're introduced to Serpentious, who at the time I don't think anybody thought was gonna be like a main character, you know? Like, when I first watched this pilot like 2 years ago or whatever, or like 3, I didn't think this man would be a main character, and I was kind of pissed off when I first watched the pilot, like how much screen time I thought he had compared to like the actual plot. I was like, why is this man getting so much screen time? He's annoying. I don't like him. And that's still an opinion I kind of have rewatching the pilot. The pilot's just supposed to get the point across of what the show's trying to do, and they squeeze so much into it, like the show, that it's like, give us more than all these other characters and get us to the actual like idea, the actual point of the pilot. I mean, Charlie starts getting like interviewed 7 minutes in, like almost 8 minutes into the 30-minute pilot, which doesn't seem that much, but it's like, you gotta get to the point, kind of. It's just too much time that we're kind of wasting. Anywho, so then Charlie's like singing and talking about it. The song's fine. I don't really care about the songs that much. After the team's like basically defeated, they go back to the hotel. Alistair shows up, and this is their character introduction, which all these characters are kind of slightly different in the actual show. So the pilot is giving us like, oh, this is what this character's like sort of vibe is gonna be. But also, you should do that in the actual show. That is a critique I have of the show. Do that in the actual show and not just in the pilot. Because, while yes, I understand you're trying to like appease everybody, but you have to like accommodate the new people coming in and not understanding who these characters are. Because if you make a show, you should not expect them to like go to Twitter. Like, you need to tell them in the actual show. Pilot sort of ends. I liked most of it. The jokes were fine. Didn't care that much about it. It wasn't that impactful to me, but I liked it. It was fine. If I had to rate it, I think I'd say like 4.5 out of 10. Alright, so episode 1, here's the Wikipedia synopsis of it. Taking place 1 week after the events of the pilot, so apparently the pilot is canon, which is weird to me. Whatever. I already said my grievances with that. So, Charlie reveals in a backstory that Lucifer was originally an angel that fell in love with Lilith, the first woman. After being cast out from heaven, they created hell to ensure that sinners of hell don't rebel. Heaven created the annual extermination to keep them in line. As hell is still recovering from the last extermination, Charlie mentions that she has not seen or heard from Lilith in 7 years. Later, Charlie receives a call from her father asking her to take his place in his annual meeting with Heaven, Charlie pitches Adam, leader of the extermination of hell, her plan to save sinners through redemption in her hotel. Her pitch is ignored and laughed at. Meanwhile, Vaggie, Charlie's girlfriend, enlists the staff of the hotel to make a commercial to promote the hotel. That the angels have moved the date of the next extermination to 6 months from the present day. Lute, Adam's second in command, reveals to Adam the exterminator killed in hell. Adam hints that he wants revenge on hell for what they did to the exterminator. Alright. So, with the plot basically out of the way of the first episode, I'm gonna read some notes that I had while I watched the show. So I wrote notes down. So, the opening, storybook is kind of, in my opinion, is really fucking weird. It's, kind of saying, oh, Lucifer was just this big, misunderstood guy, which I think is what they were trying to go for. It's not actually, obviously, you can go for less, religiously realistic sort of stories with angels and demons, right? Because what angels and demons boil down to is good and evil, and that is a story trope that has been taken to the fucking grave. It has been used and abused over centuries. It's such an obvious concept, so I'm not really mad at that. It's just as pointed out in some other people's opinionated videos, it's the storybook sounds really from Charlie's perspective of how this is all going down and what's been happening and how everything is what everything's happening in hell, right? And so it's really biased towards hell. And if they were trying to go for that, I understand that. But then it's there's the one line that people have called out where it's hell could never rise against them, which rewatching the show and watching every episode, it makes sense because it's leading to, spoiler, a final battle basically between heaven and hell. But setting that up so early on, I think people didn't understand it because it's Charlie was trying to rehabilitate sinners, so why would she be thinking that the real reason that they were doing exterminations was to make sure hell wouldn't rise again? But I think it's supposed to be portrayed as a story that she's been reading from probably her mother. It's probably a storybook from Lilith because Lucifer and Lilith used to be together and they would probably have strong opinions about it. That, watching the entire series in a straight line, like I've said before, has really helped improve, what the actual story was trying to do. Oh, also, another thing I noticed was episode 1. I think because it was the first episode, the premiere episode, it was a bit rocky compared to everything else. Right? So I said Vaggie's audio mixing in the first scene of Charlie and Vaggie together, that shit did not sound very well mixed together. I don't know if it was just where I was watching it, but she sounded so quiet compared to everything else. So I think that's just a little nitpick I have of the episode. I think that was just a little thing in general that might have been a bit off. After the initial commercial is made, the crappy one, it's the show tries to show off all the characters' personalities, but we also don't get the full introduction that we got in the pilot, which I think is trying to be surfaceable to where you can watch this and still understand what every character is and who they are, but you don't fully know why they're there, how they got there and everything, because that was addressed in the pilot. So I think that was their way of trying to not redo the pilot entirely with the limited time they had and still try and get everybody's main character Oh yeah, I didn't really like Angel Dust jokes. It kind of it fell flat for me personally, mostly because I did not care. That's just another personal opinion. Alright, so the songs for this episode, they were fine. They were surfaceable. Hell is Forever kind of just immediately went into it. It did not have as much build-up as I thought it would. Alistair and Vaggie's scene was good. I liked how they did that. That was also pretty. The ending of Adam and Lute hyping up the future is good. I like how it kind of set a bit of a mystery to the series. They made it so people would want to keep watching, kind of, if they made it to the end. All in all, I thought it was a good episode. This isn't going to be the best thing in the world, but it's going to get the point across. So I rated it a 5 out of 10. Episode 2 is Radio Killed the Video Star, and I personally love this fucking episode. It has, like, such entertaining villains, and it's kind of a one-off story almost, and I love it for that. I love that it doesn't fully stick to the serialized plot. It kind of does its own thing, and in my personal opinion, it has one of the best songs, but again, that's just my opinion. Alright, so the plot of the episode is when a trio of powerful overlords known as the V's, Vox, Valentino, and Velvet find out that Alistair, another overlord, is back after being gone for 7 years. Vox tries to send a warning message to him. This backfires when Alistair sends his own warning to Vox. The V's then decide to try and destroy the hotel from the inside. Vox enlists a demon named Serpentius to spy on the hotel by posing as a hotel guest. As Serpentius is getting adjusted to the operations of the hotel, Angel Dust, another resident of the hotel and Hell's most popular porn star, feels saddened that Charlie doesn't believe he can change. Angel Dust later finds out that Serpentius is working for Vox. He tells this to the rest of the hotel staff while he and Vaggie want to kill Serpentius. Charlie forgives him and gives him a second chance after witnessing Vox yelling at him for failing. Serpentius accepts the offer. Alright, so right off the bat, I loved that, I loved that they still tried to tie it into Charlie's overall dream, but they introduced the best fucking characters, the villains. They were the best. They were the saving grace, in my opinion, of this goddamn show. I love the V's. I just love their evil nature, right? The first song, Stayed Gone, I love it. It is such a fucking bop. It's so entertaining because it shows who these characters are through song in such a great way, and I love it. I love it so much. The other song is fine. I didn't care for it. Yeah, Serpentius introduced to the Hotel Door is a parallel to Pilot. So basically what I meant here was Serpentius, when he was first showing up in the pilot, he was like being all evil and he was just trying to destroy everything. And he was basically he was kind of like alluded to being a character maybe later. And now that they brought him up here, it makes sense because he wanted to be evil. He wants to be like an overlord. He wants to be powerful. He wants to be known. And so making him another resident of someone trying to be redeemed and trying to get out of that state, I kind of find it a bit bullshit how he got to that point in the episode. Like, oh, Charlie just kind of felt bad for him because he got yelled at because he sucked at his job. Like that, I don't know if that's really redemption worthy, but it's fine. They still got to the point they were trying to. I just don't know if it was the cleanest way of getting there. He was also kind of a parallel to Angel Dust, who, when he was taken in, where it's kind of hinted that he didn't want to be there and he doesn't acknowledge really that he's trying to improve or change. And throughout the first 2 episodes, he's shown to not change at all. But Serpentius, as soon as he gets to the hotel, he's at first he's acting, so you're well, I know it's not technically him trying to improve, but he was shown trying to improve and trying to make changes to himself and his overall personality and how he was acting as soon as he got to the hotel. So I liked that little parallel between him and Angel. Angel Dust actually works under one of the other V's, and it's such a good parallel to have Serpentius, who is also working under the V's. One note I also did have was the timeline. Episode 1, we have the talk with Adam, right? We know that Charlie's window for rehabilitating sinners and being able to save everyone in hell has been cut in half. And so now it is 6 months away. And the next episode, it's kind of shown to be a bit 2 days after or something from the previous episode. So just keep that in mind for timeline reasons, because I think it gets a bit weird towards the end of the series. I did that episode an 8 out of 10 when I originally rewatched it, but I mostly just loved the V's in it because they were entertaining as fuck. Anywho, next episode. Alright, so the plot for episode 3, Scrambled Eggs, is To help Serpentius improve as a person, Vaggie insists that he gets rid of his egg minions, whom he refers to as his egg boys. Much to Pentius's dismay, she asks Alistair to get rid of them, but before he can, he runs into Zestial, an ancient overlord, who invites him to a meeting for the overlords of hell. During this meeting, Velvet shows the other overlords the head of the dead exterminator angel, suggesting that they go to war with heaven. This idea is shot down by Zestial, who fears a war between heaven and hell would lead to more deaths. Velvet insults Zestial, but is kicked out by Carmilla Carmine, an overlord who controls Hell's weapon supplies. Carmilla reveals to Zestial that she killed the exterminator to protect her daughters, which is overheard by one of Serpentius's egg boys. The egg relays the message to Alistair. Meanwhile, Charlie asks Vaggie to lead trust exercises at the hotel. Vaggie worries that the group won't be ready when the next extermination happens and pushes the patrons to take part in strenuous activities. However, when Charlie tells Vaggie she feels that Vaggie is going too far in her methods, the two talk it out and discover their friends actually bonded over the experience Vaggie put them through. In the end, Charlie and Vaggie let Serpentius keep his egg boys. Alright, I'm gonna be real. I hated episode 3. I didn't hate it, but I hate Carmilla. I think she is, useless. I don't care for her, really. Even rewatching the series and getting fully through it and realizing she had a bigger part to play, towards the end. Okay, so she is revealed to be the one who killed the exterminator angel, which was a mystery that was placed in episode 1. And many people, including myself, were really fucking interested in this mystery and who killed it? Was it a main character? Was it Vaggie? Was it God forbid Charlie or something? Or was it Alistair? There's so many possible reasons you could tie this into the plot, but instead they added a new character who, that's fine if you want to do that, but I don't think it was led into correctly, and so it just didn't flow well. I also don't care for Carmilla's song, whatever it takes. I don't care for it because I don't feel anything for Carmilla because she was introduced in episode 3, so I don't know her before this point. Because let's say you haven't been following outside of the show, and let's say you watched the pilot. Okay, we'll say you've watched the pilot, but you haven't followed anything outside of the show. You still because that's me, and I still didn't know who Carmilla was. I did not care for this bitch. I loved Respectless as a song because it was a bop, but I did not know who this character was, and I did not care to know because she ruined one of the at the time biggest mysteries of the show that kept people hooked, and she tried to have an emotional beat for the episode, and I just did not care for it because I didn't feel anything towards her. Anyway, that was a bit of a rant. I love Zestial. His character design is really fucking dope. It's so cool. Oh, one interesting thing, Zestial refers to Alistair's deal. So we learn, I think in this episode, that Alistair made a deal with someone. He is not fully in control, which is interesting, right? Because we also don't know anything about Alistair. But the difference between Alistair and Carmilla is we've been with Alistair. By the end of the episode, we figure out that Alistair knows, and at the time when you watch episode 3, you don't know how this is gonna play into the story, right? Oh, how is Alistair gonna use this information? It's that mystery around those actions that keeps people engaged, and that's why I think me and many others were pissed that Carmilla got the big mystery of her killing the angel, because we didn't know her before this, and the mystery of that entire thing is gone, meaning there's no point in following that part of the story because we already know it. Why did we take that out? That was such an interesting plot point. So anywho, that was my biggest gripe with episode 3, was just Carmilla in general. I liked everything else about it. The songs were fine. I loved Respectless, but the other one was fine. But I did give it a 3 out of 10. Alright, episode 4. Trigger warning for essay Angel Dust leaves the hotel to act in a porn film for his boss, Valentino. While shooting, Charlie arrives and tries to bring Angel Dust back to the hotel, but Valentino beats Angel Dust, reminding him that he owns Angel Dust's soul, and forces him to make her leave. Angel Dust continues filming and is consistently assaulted by Valentino and other workers. When he gets back to the hotel, he gets into an argument with Husk, the hotel bartender, who had earlier accused him of being fake. Angel Dust leaves to go to the bar, unknowingly followed by Husk at Charlie's insistence. Husk saves Angel Dust from being drugged by one of Valentino's workers, but Angel Dust lashes out at him for saving him, revealing that he purposely lets Valentino assault him so that when he is broken and ruined, Valentino will stop using him. Husk reveals that he was once an overlord whose gambling addiction led him to make a deal with Alistair in order to keep his power, in a similar situation to Angel Dust. Realizing they share a collective experience, the two form a friendship. Arriving back at the hotel, Angel Dust thanks Charlie for caring about him, making her emotional. Alright, so I liked this episode. I thought it was really well written, and I think that's partly because you had to handle this subject with so much fucking care to make it work, that it had to be basically like almost as perfect as it could fucking be, or else people would be up and arms on Twitter. And they still were. They found a way. So I didn't like some parts because I didn't really want to watch the sensitive topics. I personally don't care to watch that sort of stuff, but it was still portrayed really well. In my opinion, I'm not a victim, so I can't really say for sure, but I thought they did a good job. The intro, especially, the intro to the episode, made it seem like it was going to be a difficult episode, and that I thought was good, because you need to address as soon as possible that this isn't going to be a happy episode, because it's not, and it will not be, and it should not be. Because if you try and make it a happy episode while having these dark themes, it can go south real quick. It's better to not take that chance when you don't know if you can stick the landing, so I appreciate that. I like how they chose Husk to be sort of a counter to Angel Dust, and giving him the backstory of also being someone who's trapped in a contract that he doesn't want to be in, because he can relate to Angel Dust more than anybody else. The graphic scenes were really hard to kind of get through, because I, again, don't really watch that sort of stuff, so it's harder for me, who doesn't watch that stuff, to like get through it, but it's still like treated, in my opinion, like carefully. So I like that. I didn't have that many notes about this episode because I just kind of wanted to watch it, and I thought it was portrayed well. Songs slapped, they were good, especially Poison. I gave this episode actually a 9 out of 10. So episode 5, the episode where they like quote unquote address Charlie's daddy issues. Charlie spends all night trying to figure out a way to reconnect with heaven. Left with no other option, she calls her father Lucifer. He shows up to the hotel and isn't impressed, clashing with Alistair. They are interrupted when Alistair's friend Mimzy barges in, wanting to meet with Alistair. Husk is distrustful of Mimzy, claiming that she only shows up when she needs something. Alistair brushes him off. When Husk hints at Alistair owing a debt to someone, Alistair loses temper and threatens to kill Husk if he steps out of line again. Husk's suspicion of Mimzy is later revealed to be true, as several loan shark demons attack the hotel in an attempt to find her. Alistair uses his power to kill the loan sharks before forcing Mimzy to leave, not wanting the hotel to be damaged further. Lucifer reveals that he believes Charlie's plan is impossible because sinners are inherently evil and that heaven will never listen to her. This upsets Charlie, but they ultimately reconcile, and Lucifer agrees to arrange Charlie another meeting with heaven. Now, the biggest fucking issue with this episode in particular is that so much fucking time is not spent on Charlie's daddy issues with her father, Lucifer. How he, doesn't believe in her. He doesn't, see her dream. He doesn't see the potential that her project has. I love so many elements of this show, but some things are just holding it back. One thing I can see them doing is maybe in season 2, whenever that fucking happens, they address this more, and so it's you get the first part of it, the reconnection, before you get the actual reveal of what happened, which can work. Anywho, some of the notes and comments I had from when I actually watched the episode were Mimzy annoyed the ever-loving daylights out of me, and Alistair's backstory, which is like, so yeah. Overall, I said this episode was a 5 out of 10. Next episode, episode 6. Charlie and Vaggie arrive in heaven when they are welcomed by Sarah, the head seraphim, and Emily, a younger seraphim. Adam and Lute confront Vaggie, who is revealed to be a former exterminator angel, who is stripped of her wings and left eye by Lute after sparing a defenseless sinner child during a previous extermination. Vaggie has not told Charlie the truth about her past yet, and Adam threatens to tell her. A trial intended to decide whether souls in hell can be redeemed begins. Shown through a hologram during the trial, Angel Dust's friend Cherry Bomb takes him and the other hotel members to a nightclub. While trying to save Nifty, the hotel maid, from Valentino, Angel Dust stands up to him, saying that Valentino can do whatever he wants to him in the studio, but away from the studio, Angel Dust is his own man. Charlie claims that this is proof of Angel Dust being redeemable, but it reveals that the angels themselves don't know how souls enter heaven. While arguing over the case, Adam inadvertently reveals the extermination plans, causing Emily to distrust Sarah, as Sarah knew about the plans and didn't tell Emily. Adam also tells Charlie about Vaggie's past as an exterminator, which leaves Charlie distraught. The court finds that there is no evidence the sinner can be redeemed. Adam sends Charlie and Vaggie back to hell, promising them that when the next extermination begins in a month, he'll be coming to the hotel first. Emily vows to help Charlie. Alright, so this episode, from what I remember, it was fucking fine. Like, it did directly come after episode 5, and I like how they were released together. Good job. Woo, you did it. You did one thing right. It was fine. It was another plot-heavy episode, like trying to explain more of the world and build upon the story beats that they've already set, like Adam and Lute. Why are such asshole people allowed to be in heaven, right? That's like a question a lot of fans were probably thinking when they were watching the show. So they try and build upon that, and I thought that was fine. I was entertained by it. I thought it was interesting. They tried to introduce Sarah and Emily as important characters, and Sarah is like good at being a character that's being held at gunpoint, almost like someone who has to protect who she thinks is like her people. She has to protect her people. She can't worry about others. She can't be thinking for the good of all, even though that's kind of like what an angel is supposed to represent. Thinking of the good of humanity, the good in everyone, seeing the light in everybody. But since she has to protect the people that have already been chosen as good, she can't like worry about these people that might find the light in life. And that's good. I liked that. Emily seemed really fine. Emily's basically just like a heaven version of Charlie. Let me just read out some of my notes because I don't fully remember this episode. It was not that impactful, except for it had the worst fucking song in the entire goddamn series. I thought Serpentious and Cherry Bomb were adorable with their annoyance. Adam is great at being the worst. He was so good at being such a nuisance, and he was like unironically driving the plot and making... This is one thing I think Hazbin Hotel does great. They make their assholes the best. You can love to hate these people. He's so good at being like almost the polar opposite of Charlie. Yeah, so this episode was fine. I liked the You Didn't Know song. I hated the first one. Anywho, episode rating 6 out of 10. I liked it. Some elements could be better. Okay, episode 7. Woo woo. This is one of my more favorited episodes because of Rosie. After they were kicked out of heaven, Vaggie reveals to the rest of the group that she was once an angel. Alistair, taking advantage of Charlie's fragile mental state, convinces her to make a deal with him in exchange for an unknown favor she will do for him in a later date. He tells her that there is a way to kill exterminators and that Carmilla Carmine knows how. Charlie tells Vaggie to go to Carmilla to convince her to help, while Charlie and Alistair seek out sinners to help them fight. Charlie and Alistair go to Cannibal Town and meet Rosie, the overlord who runs the town. She decides to help, and the residents of the town decide to as well after being convinced in a musical number. Meanwhile, Carmilla teaches Vaggie how to fight angels and tells her that she killed the exterminator using angelic weaponry salvaged from past exterminations. Vaggie regains her wings and Carmilla agrees to help the hotel by supplying them with angelic weapons. Vaggie and Charlie reconcile and enter the hotel, only to find the staff readying themselves for the battle with the angels. Okay. Another one where I hate one of the fucking songs. I don't like Out for Love. I hate it. Because I hate Carmilla. Maybe that will change in the season 2, but anywho, okay, one thing I would like to say, the animation, this is not, again, a hot take, it's fucking gorgeous. It's so good. It's so, like, pretty, and the use of color and timing, is really good. Yeah, I kind of forgot that, like, Alistair could make deals with people for, like, their souls and stuff. So, like, when that came up when I rewatched the show, I was like, oh yeah. This is kind of contradictory to my last point. I love Rosie. I love Rosie so much. I know she was literally just introduced in this episode, but it felt like we got to know her because we were introduced to who she was, and she wasn't like she's given a personality. She's given a thing to do. She's given, like, character interactions that actually, like, matter. Like, Carmilla interacting with Velvet, but not really in a musical number. Okay. Like, they were basically just bickering about wanting to do something. And at the time, we didn't even know that that was Carmilla's, like, I'm not that good at explaining my thoughts, but I just kind of hate her because I don't like her. She took away one of the most interesting mysteries of the show in episode fucking 3. And it was on a character that I didn't even know because I don't follow the show outside of the show and, like, the pilot. And sometimes I look at fan art. But I didn't follow it for, like, 4 years in the making of the show. I didn't follow the progression of Carmilla Carmine. So I didn't fucking know who this goddamn character was. So when she showed up in the fucking show being, like, all important, I'm like, who the fuck is her? But this episode, I rated it an 8 out of 10. I liked it because I liked Rosie. Episode 8. As the inhabitants of the hotel reinforce the hotel, Charlie shares with Vaggie her worries that she has led everyone to their deaths. Though Vaggie convinces her to believe in herself, the extermination arrives and an all-out war between angels and sinners ensues. Alistair and Adam fight, with Adam badly wounding Alistair and forcing him to flee. Serpentius confesses his love to Cherry Bomb before sacrificing himself in a failed attempt to destroy Adam. Distraught and enraged over Serpentius' death, Charlie enters her full demon form and confronts Adam while Vaggie is forced to fight Lute. Vaggie crushes Lute under some rubble and spares her, but Lute tears her arm off to escape the rubble and continues attacking Vaggie. Lucifer arrives to help Charlie and easily overpowers Adam, who destroys the hotel before being killed by Nifty. Lute and the other angels retreat, and Charlie rebuilds the hotel to a greater state alongside her friends and father. As the V's plot to take over Hell, Alistair hopes for freedom from a previous deal and control over Hell. Before reuniting with Charlie and her friends, Serpentius manifests in heaven as an angel, proving that sinners can be redeemed. Lute, now in charge of the exterminators, confronts Lilith in heaven, telling her that if she wants to stay there, she has to stop Charlie. Alright. This episode, I did not have any notes for because I was kind of just enjoying the show at that point. I just wanted to watch it again. I liked it. I thought it was a good ending. Other people, like, can do deep dives on this episode. I thought it was fine. I thought it was enjoyable. I thought the Serpentius death joke was funny and then a bit, like, jarring that Charlie immediately was, like, crying again. But yeah, thought it was good. 7 out of 10. I don't have many notes on it. Okay. So that was an analysis, I guess, of, like, the 8 episodes of the series, right? That we have so far. If there's a season 2 and it's the hell of a lot better, maybe I'll make another episode. I don't know. But, like, that's basically what the show is, right? So I think the series itself is good. I like it. I find it an enjoyable, like, sit down, don't fully pay attention to everything, like, don't question a lot of things. That's what I see this show as. You can't question everything because then you'll start getting confused. You'll start asking questions that have not been answered yet or addressed or maybe never will be. Because at the end of the day, do you have to address every single little detail of your world? No. Is it helpful? Yes. Is it sometimes necessary to address the more, like, glaring parts of your story? Like people criticizing the pilot of Hazbin Hotel for not addressing how demon death works. And I don't fully know. I don't fully know if this is exactly how it works because they still have not fully addressed it, but I think what's happening, from what I've gathered and from what I can interpret from watching this show twice and the pilot twice or 3 times, I don't remember, is that demon death is when you are killed by a non-angelic weapon, you respawn, quote unquote. You can regenerate, revive, whatever you want to call it, but you're not dead. You're not dead. Despite what the pilot kind of shows, where people are like dying left, right, and center, you are not dead. And I think since Carmilla is a angelic weapons dealer, the people that have money, power, and status can get these angelic weapons and kill other demons. Basically, like literally re-entering the idea of death. Because one thing as a joke in the pilot was Angel Dust's line where it was like, well, what happens if I'm killed by you, right? Like, am I just gonna go to double hell? Which is an important, like, thing to address because people don't fully understand from outside media, but if it was just a pilot or if it was a show on YouTube, you could write off not having all the information in your show, right? You can say like, oh, you have to find this outside source to understand all the lore of this show. Kind of like the Five Nights at Freddy's games have the books, right? That have extra lore in them and extra stories. Sometimes aren't canon, I think, and sometimes are. Five Nights at Freddy's might have not been the greatest example because there's so much quote-unquote lore that it's like almost impossible to decipher all of it. But you know what I mean. But fuck Carmilla. I think they were kind of trying, like when you watch episode 1 of the official show, it seems like they were fucking trying to make it so they could have the best of both worlds, where the people that were here forever can watch the show and already know everybody, but the people who haven't watched the show can still understand who everybody is. They didn't quite hit that, so anywho. Because 8 episodes having a plot and trying to have characters where you can grow them in like normal ways and having so many fucking characters to get through while having like mysteries and everything. It's a lot to put in a show and they did not have enough time to properly set everything up while still having a conclusion to the series because they didn't know if they were getting a season 2. So chill out on Twitter. And that brings me to the fandom. It's like you can't share an opinion anymore on the internet without getting doxxed. And that's not right. Isn't that literally the point of Twitter, to share your opinions? Maybe don't dox people because they don't like the same thing as you, or they do like something and you don't. Like, suck it up, Buttercup. When did all fandoms lose self-control and boundaries and rules? Like, when did we all lose that? But like, why are so many people like so unhinged to just instantly? So that's like some of the bad things I'd say about the show, like mostly just the fandom around it. And that's also a big part of another part of this show's problem, the hype and how long it took to come out. This took like 4 fucking years to come out. No matter how good it was, there were going to be people nitpicking and people like watching the episode with a like super critical lens to try and find anything that they could hate about it. And there are, again, glaring issues, but this show was so hyped, almost overhyped, that's almost to the detriment of the actual show. I think there are still positives to this show, like the characters and the actual show, how it looks, and all the people around it are so talented and so good at what they do. This, like, the voice actors, the songwriters, oh my god, they are like so talented and so good at what they do that they have carried the show on its back. And people still manage to enjoy the show because it's not that bad. Like I've said throughout this entire thing, it's not that bad. There's just some issues, some of which are not the show's fault, but some of which are. And if the show can improve those, and maybe season 2, this show can go the fucking distance. And it already has. Like, Vivian has a Amazon Prime show. She has fucking made it. She made it. She has done the once thought impossible. And that is something that should be celebrated.